Interesting turn of events, everybody. Shall we continue or call it?
The strange letter that the witch had entrusted Maria with had wiped all memories of dinner from our minds. Maria had been repeatedly barraged with questions by Auntie Rosa and the other parents, and was now in the worst of tempers because no one would believe her. Even when we kids tried to talk to her, she would just ignore us. Our parents were all stirred up over the gold, firing back and forth about the distribution of the assets, and completely forgetting that we children were even there. Even though I'd already figured that they'd been talking about this in the shadows, I never thought they'd be this blunt about it, and at least to us kids, it was a considerable shock. From what we could overhear, all of our parents wanted as much money as possible, as soon as possible. Back and forth about grandfather's inheritance, back and forth about the distribution of the gold if it was found, about advance payments in cash. It was so despicable I couldn't bear to watch, even though one of them was my dad. It looked like Jessica felt the same way. We left our seats, although no one had asked us to leave, and went to hang out somewhere apart from the parents. I see. Now I really understand why grandfather didn't want to show his face during meals. I am so disillusioned with our parents now. The money, the inheritance. How could they act like this? How could they act like that right out in the open? Well, I'm already completely disillusioned with that old bastard. There's no way I could think any worse of him. Ehehe. And you think I'm not? But even so, that freaking shocked me. Shocked me to the bottom of my heart. Jessica looked down at the floor, irritated. She was always talking about how bad her parents were. Maybe she hadn't really felt that way deep inside. I could realize that from the depth of Jessica's shock. You are both minors and still being brought up by your parents, so you might not understand. But getting money is neither a simple nor a pretty thing. You are still minors, so I won't try to force you to understand it right now. But still, I'd like you to realize that your parents are just doing their best in their own way. Great. Your Johnny Key's gotten all mature. I know that you're working hard as a full-fledged member of society, but does that mean But does that mean that when the conversation turns to money and assets and stuff, you're capable of turning into a shameless, greedy vulture just like our dads? If it would just be about me, then no. I wouldn't want to do that. However, when your family and your employees, your subordinates and their families are all counting on you, there are some times when you must fight. I hate that kind of fight. That back and forth about grandfather's inheritance just makes me want to puke. Jessica pretended to spit violently. That harsh reaction made the depths of her pain very clear. Let's stop talking about this. All of this about great grandfather. Jesus Christ.
Great grandfather.
All of this about grandfathers hitting gold, but property inheritance is our parents' problem, not ours. I agree. At the very least, I think that being considerate and staying under the parents' way when they're talking about this is a duty of their children.
Where's the fun in that? Everyone knows the phrase, adults are filthy. We had now seen that for ourselves, and that really did give us a shock. George Aniki was pretty much now much an adult, and I had already been disillusioned with my dad in the first place, so the shock wasn't that big for us. But it looked like it was different for Jessica. It looked like the shock that Jessica had received was even bigger than I had thought. This girl, she was always talking badly about her parents, but it looked like she hadn't changed at all on the inside since long ago. Even now, she was still a pure-hearted and delicate person who couldn't doubt others. I'm sure she respected her parents as much as anyone else does. And then, her parents started joining in on all the other parents, right in front of us children, going, money, money, inheritance, inheritance, my money! So it was money. So it was no surprise that the shock of hearing that was so big. I mean, let's be quite honest and frank with each other here, even though we are not frank. If we were in a position where we were to earn an inheritance, like, 10 fucking tons of gold, and all of a sudden, it was put into question whether or not we were going to receive it, we'd kind of freak the fuck out, too. I'd be freaking the fuck out. I'd be like, I mean, I wouldn't put my money on any sort of inheritance at that point, because I'm like, I would want us to make money, and the inheritance would be like the nice whipped cream on top. We'd be set without it, but it's like, anyway, regardless of where you are financially, whether you needed the money, it was a cherry on top, it's just an extra, like, drop in the bucket. You'd
or
still,
safety net.
Yeah, or safety net. You'd still freak the fuck out. Jessica, sorry, you were eating, so I didn't know.
Am I?
Oh, I don't know.
Jessica-chan, please don't start hating your mother and father. I won't ask you to understand them, but at least don't hate them.
I get it. Just leave me alone a bit. 6 years ago, I would have further taunted the dejected Jessica. But even I have grown up over the past 6 years. I realized that it would be better to leave Jessica as she was right now. Jessica suddenly looked away sulkily and left the parlor. She probably wanted to be left alone for now. I could do nothing but wordlessly watch her back as she left.
Come to think of it, I wonder where Maria-chan went.
She's probably still huddled up on the floor in front of the portrait. Oh, sorry. I was gonna let you start eating. I'm so sorry. I love you.
I love you too.
Maria, who looked up at the witches, had expected that coming in direct contact with Beatrice and receiving the letter as proof would be an event that would surprise everyone and make them happy. However, the adults had doubted its authenticity, had not taken Maria's story at face value, and had thoroughly bombarded her with questions. Even I didn't find it hard to imagine how that must have hurt Maria. We couldn't speak to either Maria or Jessica. In the end, George Aniki and I just abandoned ourselves to the sound of falling rain in the dark night. I am Batman.
I knew you were going to say that.
I wonder what's happened with that typhoon. Maybe there's some news. George Aniki walked over to the counter of the parlor where the television was. Use the table. Yeah, bring over the table and use it. That way you don't risk falling over. Yeah, here. Place it here right now. Yeah. I mean, hell, you well, if the mic wasn't in the way. Yeah. Watch out, we got a kitty behind you. George Aniki walked over to the corner of the parlor where the television was. He hadn't called me over, and I really couldn't have cared less where the typhoon was on the sea by now. So I didn't go over to the television, but instead loitered over to the window. The wind hasn't picked up that much here, but I wonder if it's horrible over the sea. I did hear from the weather report that there was a severe storm weather warning. Ah, Kirie-san. How's it going with you adults? Lots to talk about? It looked like she had caught the sarcasm. Kirie shrugged. That stomachache of a discussion would continue all night. Meow! It's very tiring. Well, all I can say is I hope you enjoy playing vultures to grandfather's property to your heart's content. It's disgusting. I'll agree with you on that. If I could just slip away like you, I would do it. Unfortunately, I can't. Eva, I'm not allowed to speak. It's not easy being a partner, you know. Kirie sighed, smiling bitterly. Well, yeah. They probably won't let Kirie-san, who married into the family, speak. Still, as Dad's partner, she has no choice but to stay by his side and support him. Being in line of fire, she must have been having to bear far greater mental pressure than me. I wasn't going to apologize, but realizing that I had spoken so harshly, I cut the sarcasm for the time being. So, how does it look? Are they still stuck on the topic of the mysterious witch Beatrice? More or less. They've been piling up secret agreements for some time, hoping for some kind of agreement between the four of them on the distribution of grandfather's inheritance after his death. And now, some unknown fifth person has appeared to make things even more complicated, so there's no way that'll make for a more peaceful conversation. One moment, they're snarling at each other. The next, they'll set up a common front. Natsuhine-san's not the only one getting headaches. On the one hand, they all wanted a larger portion than the other siblings, so they were all rivals. On the other hand, they didn't want 1 yen to be snatched up by anyone other than the siblings, so they were also all allies. One couldn't get her to tell me the details, but they were apparently arguing on and on about their ceasefire agreement and rules to prevent anyone from getting ahead. The situations under which their portions would be protected, and what legal measures would be taken in a worst-case scenario. By this point, my emotions had shot up straight past disgust, and now I perceive them as a force to be reckoned with. So, basically, Beatrice is like a saboteur sent by grandfather. He probably wanted to scare the hell out of his children for talking about the distribution of the inheritance without him. Who is this Beatrice, I wonder? If she is who she says she is, then she's a mystery that no one knew about until today, and she also knows about the existence of grandfather's hidden gold. Furthermore, she was even entrusted with the head's ring. She must truly have been trusted by him. Well, obviously, I don't think she's a witch riding around on a broom. But she's surely a person mysterious enough to merit being called a witch. I just hope Maria-chan will go into more detail about that. Even though she's just a little girl, everyone has been just chewing her up over this. They really scared her. And now we can't even ask her things that she might have answered. I wonder if those people have ever even read The North Wind and the Sun. What was for certain is that Maria received a letter from a person who took the name Beatrice. Entrusting Maria with a letter and hiding away even now, when she could have just appeared and talked to us directly. She sure is shy for a mysterious person. Hey, Battle-kun? Do you think that someone called Beatrice actually exists? Who knows? It's probably just a false name, right? Like she's grandfather's representative, so she was permitted to take the name of the witch from his delusions? No, that's not what I meant. Right now, there are a total of 18 people here on Rokkenjima. Do you think that there is a 19th person? Are there really a whole 18 people on this island? Wondering about that, I began counting on my fingers, and it really did come out to 18 people. Do I think a 19th person exists, you say? What exactly do you mean? Just what I said. It looks like the person who lent Maria the umbrella was not one of us 18. Therefore, isn't it reasonable to think that a 19th person exists, and that this was the person who lent Maria the umbrella? Well, yes, I suppose. Then, where exactly is this person now? That 19th person, Junko Enoshima!
Fucking damn it.
Mukuro Ikusaba! At the very least, she must have been on this island when it started raining. And since that time, the weather has become progressively worse, so taking a boat out would be pretty much impossible. In that case, that person must still be on the island hiding from the rain somewhere. And without being spotted by any of us. Certainly all of us would have been randomly prowling around all over the mansion and the guest house, but no one has bumped into a 19th person. John Cena! I'm out. Even so, this island is huge. There might be other places to hide from the rain outside the mansion and the guest house. About this time, I began to realize what direction Kirie-san's doubts were taking us in. Kirie was denying that a 19th person existed. Beatrice was one of us 18. In other words, she thought that someone we knew well was using her name. If Beatrice really was as she described herself, this person would definitely be one of the most honored guests. The most honored of confidants, trusted by grandfather. There's no way that grandfather wouldn't give that kind of person a warm reception. She would surely be ushered into the mansion. However, we haven't seen anyone. Wait a second. Isn't this line of reasoning a little too hasty? Yes, no one spotted them, but that doesn't mean that you can deny the possibility of a 19th person exists, right? Maybe for some reason they landed on the island stealthily and have been hiding ever since. That's what they call the devil's proof. Hey guys, that term right there? Y'all should memorize it. Love it. Appreciate it. Maybe go on a date with it. It's gonna come up multiple times, so no point in making an X. It's needed to prove that something exists. If this Beatrice appears in front of us all and says hi, then everything is resolved. But it's impossible to prove that there is no 19th person. Yes. Battle-kun, your way of reasoning isn't bad. In the current situation, there's not enough information to accept whether that a 19th person exists or denies it. But if you flip over the chessboard and think of it that way, we can be neatly sure that the existence of a 19th person is impossible. Flip over the chessboard is one of Kirie-san's favorite phrases. I had also been influenced by those words, and used them myself from time to time. When you get stuck trying to find a move in chess or shogi, by flipping the board over and looking at everything from your opponent's standpoint, you can often see a strategy that would give you the upper hand. Derived from this, it means to think by putting yourself in your opponent's shoes. Write that down! Okay. Let's say that a 19th person called Beatrice actually exists. That person must have managed, without being seen by anyone, to stealthily arrive on this island and remain hidden ever since. They had some reason for this, yes? In that case, why did they then deliberately appear before Maria and hand her the letter? It really was a contradiction. If they had some reason for hiding themselves, then they should have stayed hidden the whole time, but they only appeared openly in front of Maria. Well, wait, Maria even said it. Didn't she say that she had been made a messenger? Since Maria was the youngest and looked the most innocent. Why would they need a messenger? If they just wanted to if they wanted the letter delivered to the family conference, they could have just mailed it. If they mailed it to each of the 4 siblings, they would have been unable to ignore it. There is no need for them to carry it themselves and secretly hand it over. That really does sound pretty weird. In the first place, if Beatrice existed and she wanted to make her presence known to everyone, then she could have just openly presented herself to all of us. Despite that, she chose the vague method of appearing through a little girl called Maria-chan, and only gave us an indistinct impression of who she was. Contradiction. Let's go a little deeper, shall we? She appeared in front of Maria, trying to give us the impression that a 19th person existed, and yet, she still hasn't appeared before us, and is hiding somewhere at this very moment. The contradiction between these. Keep it in mind, and flip over the chessboard. In other words, the question is, why would a person who wants to give the impression that Beatrice exists as a 19th person? If the person wanted to hide, then they wouldn't have made their presence known. And if they wanted to show themselves, they wouldn't have used the roundabout approach of entrusting someone with a letter. Which means, it's simple. Beatrice is one of the 18. Which is why they are creating the illusion that there is someone outside of the 18. A powerful suggestion of a 19th person. The only person who would profit from this would not be some 19th person in hiding. It would be one of the original 18 people. Of course, this reasoning is full of holes. If you turn over even a few of its premises, it will simply fall apart. But I think it's almost certainly correct. This was quickly starting to sound pretty creepy. Who had lent Maria the umbrella and handed her the letter? All of the 18 had been ruled out, and yet Beatrice was hidden amongst those 18. What was the person planning? Hiding their true form and pretending to be Beatrice? I also suspected that it might have been Maria-chan play-acting, but the contents of the messenger were extremely complicated, so it's hard to think that Maria-chan prepared it herself. However, I can't deny the possibility that Maria-chan is working together with someone. Wait a minute, Maria's a 9-year-old kid. What on earth could you suspect her of planning, and with who? And what about her serious, too honest, obedient character? Yes, I also understand what kind of person Maria-chan is. Bryan, you got a thought?
Is it just a guess?
Guess theory? Yeah. Lay it on me, brother.
Because I'm, for some reason, reminded of Resident Evil 7.
Okay.
What if Kumasawa was Beatrice in disguise?
Kumasawa?
Mm-hmm.
May I ask your reasonings why?
And I remember she knows a lot about, at least heard of the legends about Beatrice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the things, just like, you mention them a lot, they're gonna show up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my whole base on this is just reminding myself of Resident Evil 7, which, spoiler alert for those that have not played it, with the fucking old granny actually being the little girl in the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. That's just my connection there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes, I also understand what kind of person Maria-chan is, but I think that's exactly why it's possible. The girl's a dreamer who looks up to and blindly accepts the existence of witches. So if a person appeared in front of her and said they were the witch Beatrice, Maria would be so happy that she would just swallow it up. So you're saying that if someone disguised himself by wearing that fancy dress from the portrait, tricking Maria wouldn't be that hard? Of course, with that reasoning, all of us women would become the primary suspects. Anyway, who did Maria-chan encounter? Asking her the details of that would be best with closest key to solving this riddle. But that key has been obstinately closed up inside her heart. Everyone denied the existence of the witch without listening to her, and barraged her with too many questions about who Beatrice actually was. Maria-chan probably won't open up her heart to the adults now. In the dim hall, in front of the portrait of Beatrice, Maria was sobbing. Please, I met you. I showed them the letter you gave me that they still don't believe. Anyway, Maria-chan is holding the key. The key to whether Beatrice is one of the 18th people or a 19th person.
Maria's stubborn, you know. And girl, when she gets angry, it's pretty hard to make her feel better.
Badler-kun, I think there's a higher probability of a kid like you cheering her up than an adult like me.
I like how they still call them kids, even though they're at least like... Well, how old is Jessica again?
Jessica is 18. No, Jessica would be...
16, 17?
No, she is almost as Battler's age. Because she's about to go... She's doing exams for college now. So, 18, 19. Yeah.
That's funny, like, they call them kids, even though they're...
Asians, we treat our kids until you're married. Your kids until you're married. Your kids until you're
mid-40s and single and you're still being called kid.
Well, yeah, because you're as useless as one. Just saying. I know you don't care about all this back and forth on the distribution of inheritance, but don't you think this classic Western mansion mystery situation is exciting? Who in the world is this person who gave Maria the letter? It makes my intellectual curiosity tingle. Even while being made to sit through those boring money talks, you can call this exciting? You really are tough. Sorry, I've read your thing. So sorry. I was really excited. I'm sorry. I'm really excited. I love Umineko a lot. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. Here you go.
Adults are something else.
I shrugged, exasperated. But I had realized. She had noticed the dejection I was feeling because I overheard our parents' turbulent discussion. I was probably trying to turn my mood around. She at least managed to make me feel good enough to hurl abuse. She wasn't my real mother, so I never really liked calling her mom. But it did make me think she's a real adult.
As opposed to a fake one? Hey, Brett, so this is where you were? Kitty, you really took your time fixing your makeup, didn't you? From now on, I'll start wearing it too.
I'm sorry. A woman's makeup takes a long time. So, how has the discussion been without me?
I'm sure everything was all peaceful and harmonious.
Kitty-san poked the weak spot under my arm with her elbow.
We decided to take a break to cool our heads a little. Looked like it'll last all night. I could cry.
His way of talking hadn't changed, but he couldn't completely hide his fatigue. I couldn't say I was sympathetic, but he looked pitiful compared to his normal energetic self.
Still, that rain's just awful. I really don't want to go back to the guest house. Looks like Natsuhi-san made preparations for us to spend the night here in the mansion. What do we do?
We don't need to think about that until you're done, right? If you run out of enough energy and head back to our room, then we can let them take care of us.
You're right. We can think about it later. What about you, Butler? If I stay, I just get in the way. I'll be nice and go back over there. Okay. Will you go back soon? I don't know. It'd be lonely to head back by myself. I'll head back with the rest of the kids as a group. Yeah, that'd be good. So, Butler, you won't just be going to sleep that easily, right? Yeah, I'll probably be up talking with the cousins. It feels like we might be up all night. Is there a problem with that? Okay. If, when the adults' discussion is over, still awake, I want to have a little talk as a family. Oh, what? That doesn't sound like you.
Apparently, Kirie-san was thinking the same thing. What are you talking about? She asked him in a small voice. It looked like Kirie-san didn't have a clue what Dad was talking about either.
I want to talk to you about it as well. I'll tell you later, but don't ask now. Please.
I don't think there's anyone who ignores their family as much as this old bastard. But this was the guy asking us to have a talk as a family. But both Kirie-san and I couldn't help but get wide-eyed.
Don't make that scared-looking face. I'm the one that should be scared. I mean...
At that point, he swallowed his words for an instant. I don't remember Dad being the kind of person who to artificially drum up suspense.
You're freaking me out, Dad. You've got your family all here right now. Quit beating around the bush and spit it out. I'm probably gonna get murdered tonight.
There was a huge crash of thunder. It must have been really close. Dad's expression, brightly illuminated by the lightning, was burned into my eyes. Dad's face, which always looked so sure of itself, and which always wore a taunting expression, was for some reason that I couldn't explain, strangely frail. He was so worn out that he looked like a different person.
What? What are you talking about? That doesn't sound like you.
I agree. What happened? You look so timid all of a sudden. It's not like you.
I'm gonna go fix my makeup. Don't follow me.
Dad turned away, weakly. After that, only Kirie-san and I were left, still wide-eyed.
What the hell was that? He's gonna get murdered tonight? You don't think that mysterious letter scared him? Hasn't he been watching too many serial murder movies?
Kirie-san didn't answer my lighthearted words and continued to stare at my dad's disappearing back. Battler-kun, when you told Rudolph-san to talk about it, he left without telling us anything. Even though he said that he had something to say to everyone. He didn't answer you. Why? Flip over the chessboard. And then, when you do?
There's a contradiction that he said he wanted to talk, but couldn't. What? Can you see anything by looking from Dad's perspective?
Yes, I can see something. He wants to talk about something. However, he doesn't have the courage to bring it up. So he actually means, in that case, chase after me, talk to me, and question it out of me. He also means the opposite when he says, don't follow me. He actually means, follow me and force me to answer. Honestly, what a spoiled child.
Huh? Are you sure that theory's okay? That's ridiculous.
Can't great detectives deduce the emotions and feelings between men and women?
So she is a detective.
They can't, right? Figuring out the feelings of the opposite sex is an even more advanced art than exposing the tricks in a difficult crime case. If you ask me, romance novels have much deeper mysteries than masterpiece mystery novels.
I see. Is that how it is?
I'll be with that spoiled little child. He normally loves to act tough, but tonight he's completely tired from that heated discussion. He probably wants someone to lean on at the moment. And responding to that need is the duty of his partner.
Ah, sounds passionate. Then I'll leave the old bastard in your hands.
Yes, leave it to me. As Kirie-san departed, I called out to her. What?
I wanted to say thanks. Thanks to you, my gloomy mood has cleared up a lot.
That's good. Communication is important. After answering with a wink, Kirie-san followed after Dad. Natsuhi could be found within the dimly lit hallway. Now and then, the thunder would crash, but it had no effect on Natsuhi's expression. Her expression was completely worn out. The discussion that had just taken place between the relatives in the dining hall was repeating itself inside Natsuki's mind. Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, the headship and all the assets of the Ushidamiya family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Kraus, as the oldest brother, had to succeed the family head. Originally, the other siblings had absolutely no chance to succeed the head. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept Beatrice's proposal. Even without playing clumsy detective games, she knew that this so-called 19th person, Beatrice, couldn't exist. This was a message employing a fictional character called Beatrice as a messenger. It may as well have been written in Kinzo's own handwriting. The proof was that Kinzo remained stubbornly neutral as to that letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims that he shouldn't be able to ignore, that he had given up that he's given up the head's ring. In short, Kinzo had wordlessly admitted that the letter held his own message. Most likely, one of the servants had given Maria the letter. Kinzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress from the portrait would be prepared, and someone, probably Shannon, would be made to wear it and deliver the letter in the umbrella. By doing that, he could make it seem like the witch from the portrait actually existed. No, if anything, this is why you could be certain that Kinzo was behind all of this. In that case, it was just as if Kinzo had butted into the siblings' private discussion. And by announcing that he would give everything to the person who could solve the riddle, Kinzo had weakened Kraus's overwhelming advantage. Now it was certain. Kinzo had listened in on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier that day, though he had known how Kraus had staved off the attack by the other three. And to make the scales of the battle go back into balance, he had sent out this strange letter which benefited the other three. Ava and Rudolph had dragged Rosa in, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age, and they were trying once again to overwhelm the Kraus 3-on-1 and push through their crazy reasoning. And so, they had resumed what had once been merely decided conflict, and were repeatedly pressing Kraus to pay them a large amount of money. Talk about the advance payment, which had been denied once already, was being brought up again under the terms that all the siblings would guarantee Kraus the succession of the family head. Of course, even without the story of the hidden gold, the Ushidamiya family's store of wealth was vast. Just that store was worth more than enough by itself. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever along with Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy. Therefore, even if they had no interest in the gold itself, there would be the lifelong fear that, on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the position of family head. And as this kind of Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage of by someone sooner or later. The only person with this fatal weakness was the successor to the head, Kraus. Did we ever find out that Rosa needed the money herself? She co-signed something and lost a lot of money for it. The other siblings had they had been told by Kinzo about something that only Kraus could lose, and they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsuki, as Kraus's only ally in his painful position, and as his wife, had believed she was fighting alongside him. She kept trying to point out to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce, and there was no need for him to compromise. Kraus had always told Natsuki. He had told all of the siblings. He has always said that the hidden gold was nothing more than a fiction created by Kinzo. Therefore, Natsuki had believed that as his wife, and on the foundation that supported her husband. Yet her words could not reach him. Even though she was fighting so hard and lending all of her strength, he continued to fight by himself and was trying to compromise with the other three siblings. Wondering why she could not be of use to him, Natsuki felt sorrow, shame, and then anger. It had happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsuki had flared up against Kraus. Enraged, she asked why she could not be useful to him. He had told her that he wanted to talk about something and had invited her into one of his private rooms, which she was normally not allowed to enter. The room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it had given her an uncomfortable feeling. There's no reason for you to worry about those three or even the suspicious person who calls themselves Beatrice says! After all, the gold is just a ruse created by Father. There's no way something like that could be found. It is set in stone that you will be the successor to the family. What are you afraid of? Kraus removed the padlock on the door. He then motioned Natsuhi to enter.
Enter.
What is this?
There's something I want to show. I have never shown it to you before.
Is it my dick? No, I'm kidding.
Right?
Natsuhi timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She searched for a switch to turn on the lights, but since this was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was.
Oh no, he's gonna kill her.
Kraus entered behind her, pushing her in, and closed the door before making any attempt to turn on the lights. The two were swallowed up by the darkness. Only the sound of Kraus locking the door rang out through the dark. What are you doing? The lights!
I'm turning it on now. Wait.
True to his word, Kraus pushed the switch on the wall, but the flickering light turned on and lit up the room. Yes. Natsuki had her breath taken away. The room had no windows, and at a glance, it appeared to be empty. In the middle of the room, a small round table had been set, and the lights brightened only that table, as if it were the leading part in a play. Laid out on top of the table was a red tablecloth with an elaborate design, covered with dust. And on top of that, something about the size of a grown man's arm had been set down. That something took Natsuhi's breath away.
Oh! It's a gold ingot of incredible purity. Without this, no one would have believed in the legend of the gold.
It was an ingot of solid gold. Even in the faint light, it sparkled with a noble and dignified gold glint.
This is not a proper ingot. I don't even know whether it was cast inside or outside the country.
It takes a high level of skill to make the purest of solid gold ingots.
Let me just bring it to a fucking blacksmith and wrong game.
Yeah, you just need to...
Would it be blacksmith or goldsmith?
Blacksmith. It'd be blacksmith. And in order to verify that purity, it was standard to have the original foundry and the name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. However, this ingot did not have that kind of seal. This mysterious gold bar had come from an unknown foundry.
Look here. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a bar of gold.
Natsuhi, following Kraus's words, timidly approached the ingot.
Right there.
Kraus pointed at the surface of the ingot. Natsuhi concentrated on that section. Right there was the thin imprint of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsuhi's breath was taken away once again.
That's right. This is the legendary ingot that Dad said he received from the witch, that the president of Maruso witnessed and was allowed to select at random to take back with him. That gained the trust of the fixers in the business. I had to use all possible means to find it, before the other siblings could.
How could... Then, the legend his father told.
It already exists. It actually exists. The gold that Ushiromiya Kinzo received from Beatrice actually exists.
How could it really exist? Natsuhi was shocked. Kraus had always said that Kinzo's gold was just a fabrication, though she had believed it as his wife. However, the reality was different. He had held definite proof, and had been more certain than any other siblings that the legend of the gold was true. Because of this, Strauss was deeply frightened at the possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold that he had failed to find, costing him everything. But to Natsu, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. She had thought that, as Krause's wife, she would be his closest confidant, which was why she had been selflessly supporting him. And yet, he had hidden this fact from her until today. Why? Have I been so undeserving of your trust?
I didn't mean it like that. It was only that there was no need to mention it.
Is that all a wife means to you?
Calm down. Becoming passionate easily is one of your bad habits.
You're the one who's making me like that, aren't you? I have been supporting you as a wife ever since I married into this family. For your sake, I threw away the family I was born to. I've been offering up my heart and body to serve you. And in return, I get this. How could you? Krause grimaced, looking annoyed. His expression effectively communicated how much he disliked this part of Natsuhi. I don't think I can be of any use to you anymore.
And that is fine. I can resolve problems between the siblings by myself. I don't need your help.
That's wrong! This is the Ushinomiya family's problem. It's true that I am not permitted to have the family crest imprinted on my body, but I'm still your wife! Even so, are you saying I'm not qualified to help you?
Yes.
Are you?
I deliberately chose not to involve you, out of consideration for you. Let's not talk any further. It'll likely only worsen your headache. Take a rest for today. The siblings will deal with the siblings' problem. It has nothing to do with you. That is all.
Natsuhi, feeling betrayed in the murder mystery, what could possibly go wrong? A dull headache tormented Natsuhi. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what scent she burned, it wouldn't heal. On the other hand, standing there alone in the dimly lit corridor, her head was filled with the sound of rain. She felt like the pain had softened a little. I may have been Natsuhi, but I was not Ushinomiya Natsuhi. Generated was as being a sorry excuse for a wife. Verbally abused for not even being able to take care of that. Even so, I tried to properly perform the duties of a wife. I've been rejected even by my husband. I did my best raising my daughter as though it was the last job left for me. However, my anger and sadness having no place to go caused me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I have been excessively strict in Jessica's education, I am thoroughly disliked by her. Jessica despises me for not being interested in anything but grades. There is no longer anything I can do for the Ushinomiya family. No, that's not good. Even so, I must help my husband dislodge the schemes of the other greedy siblings. Ed won't be around much longer. Eventually, Krause will succeed the head, and the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will become the next head. But it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor, who everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Ushinomiya family. In the years to come, that greedy Ushinomiya Eva will surely be continually plotting to find some fault with the main family. So that, if all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged down from the succession, with George in her place. It is regrettable. But George is a man. And even more, as matured as a person. You compare him to Jessica, who is right in the middle of her rebellious period, and whose grades are below average. You can see that at a glance who is more fit to lead the head, who's fit to succeed the head. So in order to secure Jessica's position, I need to turn her into an excellent person. After doing that, I want to find her an excellent husband, worthy of the excellent person she will have become. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her through all of life's joys and sorrows. Was that Natsuki trying to entrust her daughter fulfilling with some desire of her own? Natsuki thought back to the days when she had no choice but to marry into the Ushinomiya family because of that unavoidable fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. She had consciously forgotten that and had actively attended to the life she had been given as the Ushinomiya Natsuki. And this was the new life she had built. But it felt like, just now, all of that had been casually rejected. How should I think as I live my life? I don't know. Natsuki helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, cooled by the raindrops beating against it, was somehow refreshing. And even though it had no emotions, right then it seemed to be the only thing that could understand Natsuki. Even if someone showed up there and saw her like this, Natsuki had no intention of caring in the least. But she found herself caring. Because it was her beloved daughter. Oh, it's you, Mom. What the heck are you doing here? I thought you were a ghost. Just like that, just like always. Her words were more rough, but not like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsuki's throat. However, they did so only weakly, and so she was able to prevent them from escaping her lips. Jessica, I'm sorry. Your mother has an awful headache. Please leave me be. Oh. Jessica was more than slightly disconcerted by this first ever sight of feebleness from her mother. Until just now, she had been filled with contempt for all of the parents, including her mother. But now, not even the slightest bit of that feeling remained. All of it had been wiped out by her mother's completely exhausted face. In its place, the words that George had told her floated up back in her mind. Her parents are doing their best in their own way. They are supporting their family, but they can't afford to keep everything pleasant and have a heavy responsibility to fight. Couldn't her mother have been standing around in this limited hallway because no one had tried to understand that? Jessica didn't like her mother, though she had no instinct to give her mother words of kindness just because she looked a little frail. Therefore, in order to give those words regardless, she had to clench both her fists and wrench the words out from the depths of her heart. It looks like you really have your hands full with that discussion. It has nothing to do with you. Please go somewhere else. Is your headache bad? Should I go get some medicine? You don't have to trouble yourself. Please, leave me by myself. Natsuki was not being cold to her. She just wanted to get her daughter far away from her, so that she could avoid subjecting her to her short temper. But there was no chance that her intentions would reach Jessica. Oh, okay. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Looking at that expression, Natsuki realized that Jessica was trying to muster up the courage to be kind to her mother. She gave her head a small shake to drive away her own unkind feelings. Then I'll leave. I'll be with the other cousins so I don't get in the way of the adults. See you. Wait. She called Jessica, about to make her desolate exit, to a stop. What? Thank you for being considerate. It isn't good for me to go to sleep and leave you alone. Don't talk like that! You'll bring bad luck! I apologize for worrying you. I'm alright now. I will go. Staying here felt any longer with such a feeble expression would actually make her daughter feel more uncomfortable. Thinking this, Natsuki left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time, it was Jessica who called out to her mother's back. Natsuki stopped, turned around, and asked what she wanted. But Jessica herself didn't know why she had stopped her mother. And for a while, she muttered to herself with a slightly forced smile as she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around her pocket when her hand touched something, and she took it out. Hey, Mom. I was given a charm today. What was it? A charm against magic? Oh, I'm pretty sure that you're supposed to hang it from your doorknob, was it? I forgot. There's a reason for me to have it. There's no reason for me to have it, so I'm giving it to you. It was the scorpion charm that Maria had given her by the beach that day. Although she had heard of its various effects from Maria, right now, Jessica's mind was blank, and it was all she could say. It was all she could do to say even that much. Thinking that her mother probably wouldn't accept the charm anyway, Jessica had immediately drawn back the hand offering it to her. So when Natsuki came back and took hold of that hand, she was extremely surprised. What is this? Some kind of giveaway? Well, I think it's something like that. I guess you can't expect any benefits from a charm that looks like a toy. But her mother took the scorpion charm from her grip. Thank you. I'll take good care of it. Sometime soon, in exchange, I'll give you a charm that was important to me when I was a child. It's not like that's why I gave it to you. But, well, if you really say so, then I will rest for now. My headache is awful. Try not to stay up too late. Sure. Natsuki put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall.